All right, everyone needs a dress watch, okay? They're like suits and ties, right? I mean, you're gonna have to go to a wedding or a funeral or something at some point in your life, and if you're gonna have to dress up, and if you're into watches, you're gonna need a dress watch, at least for that occasion. And today we're gonna be taking a look at a Quartz dress watch, which I think particularly if you're into more affordable watch collecting, I think for a lot of guys, a Quartz dress watch is really the way to go, for one reason in particular, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Hey everyone, this is Dave. Welcome back to Just the Watch, and today we're going to be taking a look at a watch from a Chinese brand called Boderry or Boderry. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it, but this is a dress watch that I think really kind of typifies sort of the best that you get out of the Chinese market these days. They're putting together, sapphire crystal, a higher end movement, decent strap, and a lot of stuff that you would, typically not find from major brands, especially not from fashion brands, at a really competitive price. This one comes in, I think, around $80 or so. So a little bit on the higher end for Chinese watches, but still some pretty nice components and specs that are coming in with it. So it's got some neat features to it. But as I was saying in the intro, if you're trying to look at dress watches, and particularly for a lot of guys, if you don't wear a dress watch every single day, if this is more like a special occasion kind of thing, I think a Quartz dress watch really has one strong advantage over automatic dress watches, and that's the thinness that Quartz dress watches offer. Most of the dress watches that you're going to find under $500 are typically going to be, usually down to around 11 millimeters slim. There's going to be a lot of them that, you will find some that will go down to 10 millimeters, but very rarely will they go under. And you'll find a lot of dress watches, there's some Seiko Presages that are up to like 13 millimeters, so a lot chunkier. And that becomes an issue a lot of times when you're wearing a dress shirt. Normally what I wear for a dress watch is an Orient Polaris, which is about 12 millimeters thick. So it's on the larger side. A lot of people probably wouldn't qualify it as a dress watch, but I don't typically get that dressed up very often. So for me, this is a dressy enough piece. But again, for those times when I have to put on a suit, it's kind of uncomfortable to wear. It doesn't slide very easily under the cuff because of that 12 millimeter height. But this watch that we're looking at today at 8 millimeters slides much easier. You're getting it for much cheaper. And so I think, that's one option where you really would do well to take a look at a Quartz watch. Now, Boderry actually sent me 2 watches in for review. They contacted me to ask me to review the Quartz one. I checked it out and noticed on their website that they had a really interesting skeletonized automatic movement with a really cool Chinese movement in it that had some features that really blew me away for the price. So I asked them to also send me that. So there's going to be a second review of that skeleton watch coming up. But today we're going to be taking a look at the Potential from Boderry Watches. It's their Quartz dress watch offering, so let's check it out. I also want to make sure I note that this watch as well as the skeleton watch were both watches that they offered to send me for free, so I do get to keep those, so please keep that in mind as we go through the review. All right, so here is the Potential from Boderry Watches. So you can see it's clearly a dress style watch, and we're getting some really good dimensions for that. You're getting a 40 millimeter diameter, 45 millimeter lug to lug, and then only 8 millimeters thick from the bottom of the case back to the top of that slightly domed sapphire crystal. And then you are also getting 20 millimeter lugs for changing straps, which will give you, make it real easy to find straps if you wanted to switch to something different than the stock strap that's on here. As mentioned, you are getting a sapphire crystal, you're getting 30 meters of water resistance, and then you get this cool display case back on the back. So you almost never see this with Quartz watches, and I think it looks really good. This is one of my favorite features of the watch. Definitely a nice little bonus. Doesn't really add much to the actual functionality of the watch, but I think it is just a cool touch to kind of show off that Swiss Quartz movement that they have in there. And this is a Swiss Ronda 6004D movement inside, which gives you a date complication and then a small seconds hand. And I think that works really well with the style of watch. I definitely like a small seconds hand on a dress watch, especially a Quartz one. I think that just kind of gives it a little bit more of a elegant look, and the small seconds hand, the ticking is less noticeably Quartz than a large seconds hand, so I think that's a plus as well. The dial is really well done, very intricate. You're getting some really great texturing on it around the outer edge there, that kind of almost like a waffle pattern in there. Then on the second hand, base, you're getting some concentric circles, and then in the middle, a nice sunburst pattern. So a couple of different textures going on. And yeah, the dial is just really well done. I think that's one of the best features of this watch. I think that the hands and the indexes are also really well done. In this case, I have the rose gold version on black, and the hands are very sharply finished and just look really good, and the indices are all applied as well. So just a really classy, great styled look there, and very dressy too. So I think it makes a great kind of formal dress watch, or if you like that kind of fancier style on your watches, this is a good one to look at. One thing you are noticing here is that the sapphire crystal does not appear to have any anti-reflective coating, and it is highly reflective, especially in the studio lighting that I have here, but then also outdoors as well. I got a lot of reflections as well. So legibility is hampered by that. Yeah, so that's one thing to note. Another thing that I wish they would have done, and this is particularly noticeable on the black dial version, but it appears that all of the versions that they have a white date wheel, so it's not color matched. So if you got a white dialed version, you'd be fine, but on the black dialed version, the date wheel being white really does stand out. I think it would have looked a lot better if they could have put a black date wheel in there and matched it up better. The case is very simple. It's all high polish, no brushing or anything like that, but it is nicely formed and shaped. The finishing on it seems pretty good. The seams on the lugs are pretty seamless. You're not seeing a lot of solder marks or anything like that. You are also getting a signed crown, which is always nice to see. The strap is decent quality. It's not bad at all. It's definitely one that I would be completely fine using with this watch. It is a faux crocodile skin or alligator leather strap, which is very typical on dress watches. It is genuine leather. It's not anything particularly high quality, but it is a good, decent strap that I think will last you a good long time if you like that style with the watch. The hardware is matching the case color, so that's nice to see that. It's also signed, which is also good. But the buckle seems a little bit thin when putting on. It just doesn't feel that sturdy when you're putting it on the wrist, and I'm not totally sure why that is. It just, I don't know, just doesn't quite feel as substantial, but it functions fine. It looks good. So not too big of an issue there either. Okay, so what are the pros and cons of this Potential dress watch? I think Potential is a pretty good name for it, ironically enough. But let's start with the pros. First thing, I really like that display case back on the back. I rarely get to see quartz movements like this, and this Ronda quartz movement that they put in here is actually a pretty cool looking one. It's got some gold plating on it. It looks interesting. It doesn't look like a cheap thing in the back, and that's really cool. It's also a little bit functional. I mean, you can see the battery in there, the model number, very easily. So if you're looking for a replacement battery, you don't have to go take the thing apart to figure out which battery you need to order. You can order it and then take it apart after it gets there and save a little bit of time there. So I think that's kind of a cool distinguishing thing that they've done. This is the only watch I've seen that has done that. So I think that's kind of a cool touch that they've added. Second thing is the sapphire crystal. It's a dome sapphire crystal in this price range. Great option. Again, it's something that you're not going to find from any of the fashion watches that this is, I think, largely competing with when you get to this sort of dress watch category. And yeah, I think that's a pretty cool thing. It's a nice sapphire crystal they put on there as well. Third is the dial. I really like the dial and the handset that they've done. I like the texturing on the dial. I like the small seconds hands. I like the Roman numerals. Everything about the dial is really well laid out. It's a very classy look and really cool look there. So I think that's a strength of this watch as well. Okay, and then let's talk some of the negatives of this watch. First one is, I think, the first thing that I noticed is that the buckle on the watch didn't feel that high quality. When you're putting it on and off, it feels a little bit thin. I don't know, there's just something about it that doesn't feel as sturdy as I would expect, particularly in this price range. So that was a little bit of a disappointment. I didn't have any problems with it, but it just didn't strike me as the highest quality buckle that I've come across. A second con is the date, but particularly on the black dial one, they didn't color match it. So I guess if you're getting the white dial one, it probably is going to match a lot better because I think it's still a white date wheel. But when they switched over to the black dial, you're getting a white date on, and then on a dress watch like this, I think it would have looked a lot cleaner, a lot sharper if they could have put a black date. So right now, as it is, the date really stands out on the watch because it doesn't really match with the rest of the dial and the colors that they've got going on there. Okay. But those are really the only two negatives that kind of stood out to me with this watch. Okay, so let's wrap it all up and talk a little bit about value. Again, I think the retail price of this is around $80, which, it's kind of an interesting spot. If you compare it to something from MVMT or even, like Seiko and comparable offerings, it's a lot cheaper than those, especially to get a sapphire crystal, to get a Swiss movement in there. Especially if you compare it to, the fashion watch brands, you're getting way better components and quality than you would get, from MVMT or Vincero or a lot of these other brands that you're going to be looking at. Particularly the sapphire crystal and the Swiss movement. Those are two high-end features that you don't typically see from major brands in this price range. But if you go to Chinese brands, I think there's a lot more competition there. And, you can find a lot of decent automatic watches, with an automatic movement and a sapphire crystal for even cheaper than this. But again, the trade-offs that you're going to make there, I think particularly if you're going for like a cheaper automatic, it's going to be a thicker case, which again is going to really limit the ways that you can use it for more formal situations. They also are usually going to have not as nice of a strap as this one. The leather on this, it's not fantastic, but usually if you go to those really cheap dress watches, with automatic movements, the strap is basically disposable on most of those models. This one is definitely a usable strap that you're going to get. So depending on the purpose that you want it for, if you want it to actually wear for formal occasions with a suit, I think this is actually a better option in most cases than those sort of automatic ones. The automatic ones that you're going to be looking at, I think those make great everyday watches. The automatic movement is cool, it's desirable, it's really great to get, but functionally speaking, as a dress watch in a formal situation, I think this beats it out. And so having it be around the same price for a high quality quartz watch with a sapphire crystal, I think this is a fair price that they're asking here, and definitely something to consider. But what do you guys think? If you guys are looking for a dress watch in this price range, is this the kind of thing that you're looking for? What do you think about the comparison between quartz watches and automatic watches on a dress watch? For me, I really like the form factor of this is the biggest thing for me. And the style and the design and the sapphire crystal and all that is also, pretty cool for what they're offering. So I think this is, overall a good quality. But yeah, definitely want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think, and stay tuned for the review of the Boderry Urban, which will be their skeleton watch. Again, that one's got an automatic movement with a 72-hour power reserve, stated 72-hour power reserve, which I'll be testing, and a high beat movement inside it as well. So really interesting movement. It's actually, on paper, the most technically advanced movement I have in my collection now. And I think that watch comes in at around $120. It also has a titanium case. So really, really crazy specs on this one. It'll be, I think it'll be an interesting one to take a look at, and I'll be looking at that one shortly. So stay tuned for that. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. Love to get more subscribers and kind of keep the motivation going. But either way, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.